eve of closing arguments in Sean Diddy Combs' blockbuster criminal trial, the court was dark today, and yet there was plenty going on. Prosecutors announced that they are dropping certain predicate crimes supporting the racketeering charge. They include attempted arson, attempted kidnapping, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. Plus, attorneys on both sides spent hours this afternoon in a charging conference with the judge. I'm criminal trial attorney Sarah Azari, and this is Serving Justice. Today, we will break down what all of that means as we are reaching the end of this blockbuster trial. I'm joined today by criminal defense attorney Dante Mills and News Nation digital reporter Sophia Samioli, who's also an attorney and has been following this case closely from the very beginning. Thank you so much, Dante, for making time for us. And as always, thank you, Sophia. I want to go to you, Dante, first. I was on your feed and you were in the thick of this today outside of the courthouse. In an 8-page letter to the court, the prosecution said that they are no longer pursuing special instructions or theories of liability, essentially these specific predicate acts that go to the racketeering charge, including attempted arson, attempted kidnapping, both under California and New York laws, and aiding and abetting of sex trafficking under federal law. And that they're doing so, supposedly in this letter, to comply with the judge's request for streamlined instructions that avoid jury confusion. I don't know. I'm not sure I buy that that's the reason. So I really want to hear what you got to say. Is that why they're doing this, or is it that they haven't met their burden?
Well, if you take that instruction from the judge to streamline it as come to me with things that you think you can actually win on, then yes, they are complying with that. They looked at this case after they presented it and said, we didn't prove that it was in fact Sean Combs who started the fire. I mean, we may have proved that, he may have wanted to or even threatened to, but we didn't prove that he started it. So we're not going to put that in front of the jury because we want to save some credibility for the things that we believe we can prove. And it's going to come down to who controls the narrative the most on this, because the prosecution is going to say, listen, we had other claims here, but we didn't throw all of that in front of you. We let it come out. And we're now bringing you what we believe we showed and what we believe you should find him guilty for. The defense side is going to say, listen, they wasted everybody's time. They brought all of these charges. All of it was just made up and fabricated. And look at what's left. It's pretty much nothing. That's just proof that none of this should stand. And it's just a matter of who controls it better.
Yeah, and to your point, I always say it's not about what they brought before the jury. It's also what's missing. They have 2 victims of sex trafficking in this indictment that are nowhere to be found. The jury never heard from them. And then they also have a co-conspirator, very obvious one, Christina Coram, who never testified. So this jury's like, there's these like holes, and now you've got these predicate acts that were testified to that are gone. But I'm not sure. I've read the indictment, Dante, multiple times today, and I've read that letter multiple times. I'm not sure if they're just essentially getting rid of the attempted versions of arson and kidnapping, or are they getting rid of arson and kidnapping altogether? I'm reading it because in the indictment, paragraph 13 says, these predicate acts that they're listing, they say, arson, attempted arson, kidnapping, attempted kidnapping under California and New York, and then, of course, aiding and abetting of sex trafficking. Like, they're not getting rid of the sex trafficking. They're presenting evidence of that, but not the aiding and abetting of it. Are you reading this as like the whole predicate act of kidnapping and arson is now going to go away? Or the attempted...
I read as those 2 things, the arson and kidnapping, will go away. From my understanding, if you're not going to put forward and you don't want that put forward to the jury, even as far as legal definitions and things like that, then I don't think it's going to be included at all. I think they're going to hang their hat on the prostitution, the sex trafficking, and RICO combination and say, this is what we proved to you. We let everything else go.
It'll be interesting to see. I'm dying to see the actual instructions, getting all this there's obviously all this dispute over what the instructions should look like.
The definitions, I don't know if some of the definitions they asked for, where they said, the actual definition that said, even if you're You don't have to be chained up or tied up in order for it to be coercion. Even if you received, if you didn't receive money, then it still can be prostitution. It's just weird definitions. They're trying to plug their holes with definitions and instructions to the jury. That's not how it usually works.
Right. And Sophia, I always say that when the prosecution hasn't met its burden, that's where they're just reaching and grasping for these special instructions, because instructions are attached to the statute. So there are statutory instructions that go with the charge. But then when you ask for specific instructions, it's usually very tailored, very, it's minimal. It's almost like they're asking for like a whole new set of instructions that should be written so that they could meet their burden, right?
I mean, they cite precedent. They are saying that this isn't coming out of left field. That letter, they talk a lot about different case law where they're saying this is where the definition met here. This is where the definition met here. It's broad. I completely agree with you both. Like it's very broad. And they are definitely looks like plugging holes, Dante, like you said, especially with the physical restraint and like the quid pro quo. Let's see what the final result is, but they do seem to have a justification. It's not coming out of nowhere. They are saying, look, this is things that other courts decided. So let's see.
Well, and the case law is why this is taking so long today, because remember, we have an appellate lawyer. This man is blessed enough and rich enough to have an appellate lawyer sitting in on every day of his trial, researching, arguing, and really making an impeccable record for appeal should he be convicted of anything. And so she's going in there. We need another 30 minutes. We need another hour, because they're looking up the law to make sure that the judge is not, obviously he's the arbiter. He's going to decide what these instructions are. But, if there's any judicial error with regards to these instructions, that's a major problem.
Sarah, do you agree with this, that for the jury, this is a high profile case, so I think it makes them focus more on this, but I also, for the judge, when you have a high profile case that is going to be scrutinized, when you have an appellate lawyer sitting in that courtroom that is going to scrutinize every single ruling, you pay a little bit more attention to it and you don't give grace that you normally otherwise would. So even with the jury instructions, adding special instructions, sometimes the judge is like, you know what, okay, we'll just put it in. But now the judge may say, listen, I have to go by the book. This is what's required by the law. There is no reason to go beyond it. So we're going to stick with what's required by the law.
Yeah, and that's why, our field producer, Tommy Cristaldi, who usually joins us here, couldn't make it because the court's running really late today. And all day they keep going back and coming back. She's asking for more time. And it's really because the judge also is going to have his clerk looking up this stuff to make sure, like you said, what he's doing is sort of as bulletproof as possible in case there's an issue later. See, it's interesting. I'm not exactly seeing it like you, Dante. I'm seeing it as they're getting rid of the attempted versions of the arson and kidnapping and the aiding and abetting of the sex trafficking, but not the actual arson and kidnapping. Because in the indictment, it said both attempt and actual. I think, and that obviously that's an effort to streamline, cause less jury confusion, because the jury's going to be like, did he attempt or did he actually do it? Which one are we deciding? So they're trying to make it less confusing. That's how I'm seeing it. Who knows?
I read it the same way as you, Sarah. When I read it, I saw it as that.
Yeah, but they are, they're definitely getting rid of, but I also think they haven't proven it. They haven't proven it. That was all speculative. There was female DNA on the car. There was no investigation or prosecution of the break-in into Kid Cudi's home or the arson of his car. So I think they're realizing, and they did throughout this trial. This trial took a lot of turns for the prosecution. They never thought they're going to be missing two victims, and they've been sort of, taking turns as they went along. And I always say trials are a fluid process, Dante, as you know. And so I think this is a sort of another thing at the end where they're like, okay, we really, like you said, they don't want to lose credibility.
The issue here, I think, was the issue from the beginning. They prosecuted a person, not necessarily a specific crime. I think they saw the video, they saw the physical abuse and said, this is a bad guy that needs to be prosecuted. Yeah. But they could not, because of the statute of limitations, prosecute him for the obvious crimes. Correct. So they went for something less obvious that they had to kind of piece together. And that's why this case is so difficult. And I don't know if it was easy enough or easy as they thought it would, especially once they started losing witnesses and things like that to piece it together.
And I think it's so important that we're having this discussion about sort of the backdrop of all of this, you know, the sort of the politics of this and bringing this case, especially a jurisdiction like SDNY, because I also think that this jurisdiction has recently had a lot of success in convicting high-profile individuals for sex trafficking, racketeering, specifically R. Kelly. I know that those, you know, his case involved minors and consent was not an issue, but still it was the idea that a music enterprise was a criminal enterprise. And this jurisdiction has had a lot of success doing that.
And Menendez.
Yeah. And I think, you know, to your point, like they would not be able to prosecute him on domestic violence. That's a California charge that is long dead because of the statute of limitations. So they're like, another, you know, big name, you know, celebrity who we can bring down in this jurisdiction because we're on a roll here. You know, I definitely see it that way too. Okay. So Dante, what are the expected headlines for the prosecution's closing and what are the defenses, you know, what do you expect the defense to argue? Obviously consent, but like, tell me both sides.
Yes, the prosecution is going to go with what they've been going with from the beginning, which is he's a bad person. They're going to probably play the video again in the summation. And they're going to highlight that as the example of force that he would show if you did not obey his commands. And that's what they're going to hang his hat on. He was a person who he was this force. Yes, people wanted to be around him, but he also demanded things from people like you go get drugs, you bring in prostitutes, you participate in this activity. And if you don't, there will be some kind of a consequence. And that's what the prosecution is going to hang their hat on, while the defense is going to say that was his personal lifestyle and had nothing to do with the organization, had nothing to do with his business. He had sexual proclivities that he engaged with people who willingly participated, you know, whether it was because he was paying their rent or whatever was their reasoning for being a part of it, they volunteered to do that and he never forced them to. That's where it's going to come to a head and the jury's going to have to decide one way or the other.
So, Sophia, you know, I also see this. I think the prosecution is going to come in with a massive PowerPoint presentation that lays out all of the elements and literally, you know, like a flow chart going to the testimony and the documentation or whatever evidence there was in the trial to show that they've met, you know, that they're checking all the boxes and meeting their burden. I think they almost have to do something like that. And I think it's probably going to be a little boring, the prosecution's argument. The defense obviously is going to be more colorful. I think that the defense, like Dante said, will definitely really, you know, bring home the idea of consent, but also money grab is the star witness that they didn't put on. They didn't put on any witnesses, but to me, money grabbing and opportunity is their star witness. So they're going to really argue that and say, these people wanted a career. These people wanted support. Jane wanted a provider. She said it herself, you know? So these people, if this was so bad, if he was such a monster, then they wouldn't stay. I mean, you know, coercing someone into sex is one thing, but you never coerce them to stay in the relationship. How come they didn't leave? Because it wasn't that bad. This was part of the relationship. This was a lifestyle, like Dante said. Last but not least, I think they're also going to argue his addiction. You know, his addiction is a mitigating factor for federal sentencing. It's a huge one, actually. But I think here, if you remember from a bunch of the witnesses on cross, the defense elicited testimony. Well, did he appear to be under the influence when he did that? Did he appear to be under the influence when he said that? And so they're going to try to argue that like all this petulant blackmailing and threats and all this stuff that he did, that is not the man that's standing trial. That is the monster on drugs. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he's been sober since he's been in custody, blah, 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 which is why the prosecution brought in all that evidence about when his hotel got raided, when he got arrested, he had the drugs and he had all that stuff. So they're going to say, he's never changed. He's not humbled. You know, he's still
that can be used as an excuse. That's a tough one because you're putting yourself in a position where you're making the prosecution's going to say he's a bad guy. You're making him seem a bit worse as an addict. Yes, it works for sentencing as a mitigating factor, but when the jury's deciding guilt or not guilt, to say he was on drugs, it wouldn't be looked at as an excuse for his behavior.
Well,
and I think it's risky to kind of put that up there.
I agree. It's a sensitive one, but I think it can be subtly argued to explain that he, that is not his behavior. That's not like Sean Combs in his raw form. That's Sean Combs on drugs.
And not to say, listen, they knew this is who he was all the time, and they knew who they were dealing with.
Yeah.
They decided to be in the relationship or not. They knew who he was. They knew what they were getting.
That still doesn't excuse the behavior, though. Like I feel like you're right. They saw this awful video of Cassie being beaten, being dragged, and now to say, well, he was drunk or he was high at the time. I just don't know if I feel like the jury's going to be like, what? Now all of a sudden, that's all fine.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think.
Well, they are going to say that is domestic violence, and he should have been prosecuted for that. Although he paid off someone, so he doesn't get prosecuted for that. but that's a California law issue, and not what he's standing trial for, right? But what about the instruction that really bugged the hell out of me? That the prosecution is seeking an instruction that essentially, what was it, that the coercion, that it doesn't matter that there was past consent.
Giving
they don't need to
consent.
consider. Yeah, they don't need to consider past consent. That's the whole relationship.
Yeah, but consent can be revoked at any time, though, right? Like, I think they're trying to say that, maybe though she wanted to do it this time, but there were times where she said no, and she was forced to, or she was threatened to.
Yeah,
with those,
I think,
those tapes.
but see, I think it's unbalanced, as the defense argued. I think you can argue that, but for an instruction, for it's almost like you're boxing the jury into finding coercion,
and almost in making them believe that you have to, I guess, actively get that consent every single time, like a verbal yes or something like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to what they're going to argue is he was given consent and this relationship just continued as it was.
Yeah.
And if they didn't want to do it anymore, then they should have told him that. Right?
They did, though.
Yeah, but no, but
there's points where they said no. There's points where they said, I don't want to do it. Or they said, I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. So there is evidence where they say no.
but then they change their mind and they do it. Here's the thing. There were text messages where he is actually saying, are you sure you want to do it? I can't remember if it was to Cassie or to Jane or both, but there are messages from him saying, you're sure you're down for it or something like that. So look, those are in front of the jury too, and I think this is.
He also had videos, explicit videos of them, right? Where they thought if they didn't say yes, something could happen. Those videos could be leaked, given to somebody. So,
yeah.
I don't think it's clear cut.
But here's, this is my next point that was also in that letter that pissed me off, Dante, was the one where his knowledge doesn't matter. Like, did he know that they didn't want to do it? That's like, so now a man has to read your mind. The man
that's the tough part. And I think some of the testimony that came out, specifically say from Jane, where she said, I didn't want to do it, but I knew if I didn't, he wouldn't have me in his orbit anymore. So I did it anyway. Does that constitute, not giving permission, or her essentially not giving him the ability to do it? Because in her mind, she said, the only reason I'm doing it is because.
Right.
He's not supposed to, unless the jury gets this instruction, he's not supposed to have to try and guess that or
have a crystal ball. A crystal ball. Like, that's what I'm saying. This is really such a litmus test for where we're at with the post Me Too. I mean, do men have to read minds now? Like, it's like, are you down for it? Yeah, well, but they eventually do it. They're seen on tape, really into it. The sex workers said they got no clues or cues that they didn't want to do it. They were enjoying themselves. So, like to your point, Sophia, the mind can change, but then change back again too. And so,
it can.
Right? But then is the man supposed? I mean, listen, we're in trouble. We're in trouble if he's found guilty of sex trafficking. I think a lot of men are going to have to be spending time in prison in this country, because it's like, you got to be a mind reader. It's insane to me. Anyway, all right. I'm not a girl's girl. Can you tell?
Well, no, I don't think that's, I think, listen, consent needs to be given. I preach that to anyone.
Yeah.
But it is tough if you're saying that someone really didn't want to, they didn't express it, but because they really didn't want to, then you should have understood that and read that to be that you did not have consent. That's a tough burden. I don't know if the judge will put that on the jury, but if he does, if he reads that instruction that Sean Combs didn't have to know they didn't want to do it, if they didn't want to do it, that counts as forcing them, then I think Sean Combs, just like you said, a lot of other people may be in trouble.
Yeah, remember the Dodgers star player, last name's Bauer, I forgot his first name, but anyway, remember that he was, this didn't get filed as a sexual assault, but the girl had a lot of bruises. She was a fan that met him on Instagram. She was driving, 3 hours from San Diego to Pasadena to have rough sex with him. There were text messages about what she was asking him to do to her: choking, beating, dragging, gag balls, all of it, right? And then she said, well, I felt like that was her thing at the restraining order hearing. So this was not a DA case that didn't get filed, but the restraining order, which was like a 2-week trial, said, I felt like that's what I had to do in the moment. So how is he supposed to know that? I mean, how, the text messages we're asking for it, you get there, you're into it, but now we're going to have to process why you're saying yes. No, that's what I'm saying. No means no, then yes means yes. I'm sorry. This goes to both of you. Can we start reading the tea leaves? Because I think it's really fun at this stage of a trial to figure out what's going to happen. So we're dealing with racketeering, sex trafficking of Cassie, sex trafficking of Jane, and a violation of the Mann Act, which was prostitution across state lines. Guilty or not guilty, Sophia?
Okay. I have two defense attorneys with me, so this is interesting.
No, okay. I want Sophia's opinion, not a prosecutor's opinion.
Yes, 100%.
Wait, which one?
Transportation to engage in prostitution.
Correct. Okay.
That's, I think, I don't think anyone's contesting it. I would be shocked if he was not guilty on that. Sex trafficking on Jane, not guilty. Sex trafficking on Cassie, guilty. Racketeering, I've really been struggling with this one, but ultimately I feel like it's going to be not guilty.
Mm-hmm. Dante, you?
I'm one short. So I do think that there will be a guilty verdict on the transportation prosecution case. Like you said, they're not really contesting that. It's hard to contest. I think you have to, if you want to, on the defense side, keep your credibility. You say, listen, he did this. It's separate from RICO and everything else. It was just his sexual preference. But in fact, he did pay prostitutes and they traveled, and you have to kind of acknowledge that. But I think in acknowledging that, you say it had nothing to do with his business. It wasn't an enterprise. This wasn't a large kind of thing. It was.
And where's the co-conspirator? Right? Where's the co-conspirator?
There are no co-defendants. No. And you point to his business manager who came in and said, listen, we ran everything by the books as far as Bad Boy was concerned. Nothing, crossed over. I think he's not guilty on everything else because it's a very tough case to prove.
So I think we have a unanimous, we have a split verdict for sure. I think we all believe that there's a split verdict, but we have a unanimous verdict on the Mann Act violation, the prostitution across state lines for the purposes of sex. I think he's going down on that. I think he's not guilty on Jane, sex trafficking. I think that there might be a hung jury on Cassie, and I think he's not guilty of racketeering. But it's definitely a split verdict. We'll see what happens. And, the Mann Act violation carries 15 years, mandatory minimum. So, right, Dante?
And if there's people who are on that jury, and this is just honestly, just being practical. If there's people who are on that jury that saw that video of him abusing Cassie, heard some stories about him and thinks he's a bad person, that's an easy one for them to get a win on, to convince the other jurors he's guilty of something. Mm-hmm. And they may do that in exchange for the other jurors who aren't looking at it that way, that says we need him to not be guilty on something. That's practically how it may play out. They may just agree with that one easier case to prove, with the understanding that everything else is really muddied. So we're just going to let that go. And that's sometimes how a jury just, comes to an agreement.
I've been saying if I was on the defense team, I kind of would not be mad at the prostitution charge, even though he's obviously facing time for that, because, sometimes jurors, it's easier for them to find a bad guy guilty of something as opposed to nothing. So it gives them something to find him guilty on. But if they're struggling with the others, then they can obviously come back with a not guilty. Well, we shall see.
Just curious, since
yeah.
I've got both of you. I'm just curious. Had the other two victims showed up and testified, do you think that this case would have gone a different way? Like, do you think they would have turned it around and made it a little easier to get to Rico? Because they brought Rico. It was tough, but they chose to do so. And that must be for a reason, right?
No, so the other two victims were just two additional victims for sex trafficking.
No, the other two people that would have came in wouldn't have went to. I think for Rico, they had to bring in more people that worked for the company that said, he used our assets or other things for this. I think they would have had to broaden the scope of him getting, bringing prostitutes or drugs or to really go towards that RICO charge.
Well, what I think is going to be a unanimous agreement between the jurors is that the prosecution has overreached in this case. To what extent, we'll see how much they agree, but they're going to see that, two of their victims went missing. A co-conspirator, a major co-conspirator is missing. It's not a good look, for a prosecution. So that matters too.
But I think the prosecution made it clear.
But when the defense
could have gotten it with KK. If Christina Quorum had shown up, then I think probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that this gives the entree for the defense to argue. Really, this is a racketeering conspiracy. Where's the co-conspirator? What, did he agree with himself? Is that another thing in his mind that's going on? Like, this dude's a major psychic.
Yeah, you heard from other people here saying it had nothing to do with the business. I think that's an easy argument for them to make. But I do think the prosecution they prosecuted a person, right? Him. And they've made it clear that he's a bad guy. And I think they've convinced some of the jury enough that he should be found guilty for something. And I just think the easy one is the prostitution demand.
I agree. Dante, thank you so much for finding time for us today, because you were in the thick of it, and I was like, I have got to hear what he has to say.
And I enjoy you. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise. And thank you so much, Sophia. We will be back tomorrow. Thank you to our viewers who are following along. We're not getting off this case until however long Diddy's problems last, which is going to be a long time. We will be back tomorrow, and until then, the defense rests.
When we come back, a huge milestone in Diddy's trial. The prosecution has rested, and what the defense plans to do next is definitely raising some eyebrows. It took them just about a month, but the prosecution has completed all their testimony, called all their witnesses. They have rested, and now the ball is in Diddy's court. And the ball is going to be kicked to the jury, because we know that the defense is not going to call any witness. At least that's the plan. We are doing this right now around the time of lunch, and the defense is going to come into court. And what we are told, unless something changes during lunchtime, is that they are going to rest without calling a single witness. Wow. And there are reasons for that. So here's our recon. The defense believes that they have reasonable doubt on all counts. On racketeering, they believe that this was more a showing of disorganized crime rather than organized crime. That you've got a guy who's a criminal because, he beat Cassie, did all sorts of terrible things. But terms of
not using his entire organization to further those means, right?
And the means usually have to be a singular purpose: selling drugs, doing hits, he's a jealous, crazy criminal boyfriend, and doing all sorts of disconnected things that have to do with being a crazy, jealous criminal boyfriend, but that's not the underlying business. So that's their argument there.
Okay.
On the issue of
sex trafficking?
Sex trafficking without consent.
Right.
They believe that the various...
That's the only kind of sex trafficking.
Well, there are two. Then you got the Mann Act.
Right. Well, that's the traveling of prostitutes.
Right.
Purpose. Right.
But they're both kind of that issue. And
well, the sex trafficking is about the people, the victim in the sex trafficking are his girlfriends.
They're saying that there's reasonable doubt when it comes to consent. And again, we're not saying this is true. We're just saying this is their gamble, that they think that there is enough reasonable doubt given the various text messages Cassie and Jane sent,
and statements they had made that the jury would be unsure as to whether this was done forcibly or not.
And Harvey, right now the defense is doing a motion to get Diddy acquitted on all these charges right now. The jury's on lunch break. His lawyers are talking to the judge, explaining what you've just been talking about. These are the reasons why the judge should just acquit him on all charges. The prosecutors haven't made their case. Judge, acquit him before this even gets to a jury.
Yeah, well,
that's what's going on
by the
right
way,
now.
that is a standard thing to do, and you have to do it to preserve your right of appeal. It will be denied. It is almost always denied, and it's definitely going to be denied here. So this case is going to go to the jury.
Now, hold on.
We have this
the other
other
count.
thing.
The other count. The Mann Act.
Okay, that's problematic.
Which is to the transportation of an individual for purpose of prostitution.
Right.
We had testimony from actual
for commercial purposes.
male escorts.
For commercial purposes.
Or
where you make money. Yeah, you need to. There's got to
Derek,
be.
you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah.
It has to be
needs to be-
transportation across state lines
Right.
for the purposes of a commercial sex act is what. So for prostitution, as you said.
Right.
And their
Commercial-
argument here is going to be,
Sorry,
look.
Yeah, no,
we
the
have-
person, but hold on, you made it sound like Diddy was the one making money.
Okay, let's move
and
on.
it's not Diddy making money. So
No, not Diddy making
It's
money.
right. sex worker.
It's the sex
for someone
worker,
to
right.
come across state lines for sex, and the
That's what
argument
I
they're
was
going to
getting at.
present.
They're not
you're
making.
paying the sex worker.
Yes, that's the commercial.
Were you that desperate to argue with someone that
You
you just
started
needed
the
me to come
argument.
back?
You
so
literally
that-
started the
I didn't
argument.
start the argument. I
Derek,
was laying out what the
Derek,
charges.
he
And this
started
guy
the
says,
argument.
well, to make a profit.
Derek.
Listen, order in the court. Order in the court a little bit. Let's just explain what kind of argument they're going to make, which is that they've had these escorts on the stand and have asked them during cross-examination, were you paid to come over across state lines for sex? And the male sex workers have all said, no, I was paid for my time and discretion, which sounds like a good argument, except it would nullify all of the laws about prostitution if a prostitute could always say, you're paying me for my time, just leave the money on the nightstand. It's not a commercial sex act. We just happen to have sex after you pay me for it.
And you're right, but here's the twist to it, that what they're going to argue is this is bedroom police. That ultimately you're basically going into somebody's bedroom and prosecuting them for what they do, whether it's kinky or not, it's what they do. And, do you put 70 Homeland, again, this is their argument, 70 Homeland Security agents getting a search warrant, raiding his house, talking about baby oil at press conferences, and ultimately it's about that. So in a way, what they're asking for, there's something called jury nullification, where the jury can just say, no.
Yeah, we know this is the law, but we're going to decide.
And that's what they're kind of banking on here.
Boy, that just seems like a big gamble. I mean, I guess to the defense, they feel like they made those points in cross-examination of all of the prosecution's witnesses,
Right.
and there's no one for them to bring up their...
Closing arguments are everything here. The prosecutor, Comey, she does amazing closing arguments. She's done it in the past with Ghislaine Maxwell. And Kenny Garagos, I believe, is going to do the closing for the defense. And that's where you put the case together and sell it to the jury, because it's been very kind of disparate in the testimony. So closing, which is going to happen Thursday, is going to be critical.
Hi, I'm Kaya from Florida, and I think that the Diddy's team choosing to not settle yet was because that they are afraid of using those tactics because it is the wrong situation. I also believe that prosecutors resting their case early was a good thing because, this is such a polarizing case that it's not going to work in their favor if they're keeping up with the media and kind of, trying to elongate this. So them, resting their case is a good thing because now.
With you now with some breaking celebrity dish news. Prosecutors have dropped some charges against Diddy. Joining us now is TMZ executive producer Harvey Levin with the latest late breaking details. I mean, Harvey, I can't get through your story here fast enough. What's the latest?
Okay, it's a little bit confusing, Marissa, but let me explain. The prosecution sent a letter to the judge saying the judge had asked prosecutors and defense to streamline the proposed jury instructions. The prosecution is saying, okay, so let's eliminate attempted kidnapping, attempted arson, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. So now the question, what does that mean? We know the arson relates to Diddy allegedly blowing up Kid Cudi's car in a fit of jealousy, the fact that Kid Cudi had dated Cassie. So it would seem that they're saying, we're just not going to pursue that when it comes to giving the jury instructions, because the jury never directly tied Diddy to the actual arson of the car. Now, they do mention the word attempted, so I suppose you can make the argument that they're gonna not say he attempted it, he actually did it. But that doesn't make sense, because all they said in the testimony was that they believe he did it. And it went on fire, so it was done. So it seems like they're eliminating that. And similarly, when it comes to kidnapping, you may remember that there was testimony by Capricorn Clark, Diddy's assistant, saying that Diddy suspected her of stealing jewelry. They took her, put her in a warehouse, and gave her lie detector tests, and putting her in that warehouse was kidnapping. It seems they're not going to pursue that. And there was a second one involving this alleged victim, Jane. So it seems they're taking certain things off the table, but I got to be honest with you, the letter's a little bit confusing, but it definitely seems the prosecution is pulling back on what they are going to argue to the jury in closing argument.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the aiding and abetting with the sex trafficking, that charge is still there, but they're pulling back on even some of those details.
And my guess is what they're pulling back on are things like Diddy's assistant booking a hotel room. I mean, how is, that's booking a hotel room. Travago is not sex trafficking. and just booking a hotel room is not really evidence of sex trafficking. So I'm guessing it's things like that they might be pulling back on.
It definitely appears as if the prosecution have found some weak spots in their case, potentially, and that's why they're giving the jury those instructions, before making their closing arguments. Thank you so much, Harvey. I know this was breaking news that you all have provided us with, and we'll certainly stay in the know as we continue to cover the outcome of this case. Just a reminder, you can catch Harvey and the entire TMZ team tonight at 7:30 after Like It or Not, right here on Fox 5.
What did it feel like?
It felt like Diddy's team was saying, y'all got us effed up, and y'all did our job for us, and we ain't got to do nothing else. Y'all brought this man here. Y'all wasted his time, his family's time, his energy. Now we about to let him walk out of this courtroom. Thank you for doing our job. Good night.
Well, the reality is that's the confidence his lawyer is supposed to have.
Man, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've never thought that he was going to walk clean away from this, but I didn't think that they would come with that confidence at the end of this.
They would have to. I'd be mad as hell if I'm paying them all this money and they ain't have no confidence.
I mean, but even presenting, when they stood up to present their defense, they entered in, some transcripts from witness testimony from Dawn, from Jane, from Mia, all these different people of the times that they basically were caught up on the stand and inconsistent. And they showed text message from Cassie saying she's so in love with Diddy. That was it. I thought that there was at least going to be more on that side of let us put this narrative in the juror's mind, because that's in front of the jury. They ain't really do much on that side either.
None of us really know what's going to happen, but no outcome would surprise me except one, and that's guilty on all counts. Guilty on all counts.
Yeah, I can't see that either.
Yeah, I don't think
that would be a surprise. But we keep talking about the RICO. I thought racketeering, you only have to prove at least 2 predicates.
I'm not an attorney, but the way that this woman broke it down yesterday, her main point about all of the charges that they're throwing at him is that there are multiple different elements that you have to satisfy, and that if one is not satisfied out of the many, there's room for them to come in and say, you didn't do your job here, he shouldn't have to be looking at this charge.
But you got 3 charges, right? So transportation to engage in prostitution,
yes.
I think they proved that. Sex trafficking for force, fraud, or coercion, I'm not sure about that one. Racketeering, like I said, you only got to prove 2 predicates. The bribery and the kidnapping, that looked pretty strong. But I just don't know if there will be a unanimous jury verdict on any of these things, because the general consensus from people is that Diddy is just a 5-star freak.
Basically.
And what's the schedule now? When is the ending, the closing remarks, and when do the jurors start deliberating? Do we know?
Yeah, so today, Wednesday, is going to be that charging conversation. So we'll know exactly what the charges will be for the jury. Thursday is when the closing remarks will happen. So that'll be between the defense and the prosecution. They might go until Friday. They set Thursday and Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. for that to happen. And then after that, the jury deliberation starts. So if that closes early, the closing remarks, the jury can start deliberating by Friday. But more than likely, the jury will begin deliberating Monday.
Well, don't come back with a verdict until after the 4th of July. Let us enjoy our vacation and stuff next week. And then when everybody get back to work, come back with the razzle dazzle.
It's going to be before that. It's going to be before that. Didn't the judge say he wanted the decision before 4th of July? And Diddy will probably be having a 4th of July party if
Boy, you want to party so damn
you
bad.
want to be booked.
You keep talking about this. You want to be a party favor at a Diddy party so bad.
The judge has to give the jury the time that they need. So even though he's been saying it would be nice for all of us to get out of here before the holiday, if they need more time, that's just what will have to happen.
Good evening.
It's Way Up with Angela Yee, and my guy Armand Wigginson's here doing what he does best. You ready?
Yes, we're getting into it.
All right, well, Diddy prosecutors are dropping these kidnapping, arson, and certain sex trafficking charges. People were surprised by this because this was right before closing arguments happened today that they announced this. They said the government is following His Honor's instructions to streamline the jury instructions. Can you break this down?
Yeah, I think at this point, the prosecution is like, hey, we need to have a broader scope here because we don't have enough evidence to convict him on all of these things. So what I think they're doing now is they're trying to make it easier for the jury to get a guilty verdict.
Okay, so they're not going to pursue the attempted arson claims that he blew up Kid Cudi's car in a jealous rage, allegedly. They said prosecutors never directly linked Diddy to that fire. They're also saying that they haven't really proven that Diddy allegedly kidnapped former employee Capricorn Clark and also Cassie when she was allegedly held at the London hotel.
And that was actually in the Rule 29 filing that they did yesterday, that the defense did yesterday. And I thought they did a great job doing that because it showed, they said, hey, listen, you guys cannot prove that these employees were aiding and abetting and willingly committing these crimes. Cassie, was she actually kidnapped at the London hotel? No, she was not held with a gun at gunpoint
during the end of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, with
really
attorneys finalizing
Capricorn Clark. She had the option to actually leave when she was getting that lie detector test, right? When she said that she was in there for 5 days getting a lie detector test, they said, did she actually try to leave? And she never actually tried to leave. She actually said she sat and did the lie detector test because she wanted to prove her loyalty to Diddy. So they're saying, well, girl, you couldn't have been kidnapped.
So let's focus on the things that we can prove is what they feel.
Yes.
Overall, do now instead of these other extra things that's confusing that you feel like this didn't happen, so now none of it happened, right?
Yeah,
so maybe
exactly.
Okay. All right. Now, Diddy also told the judge that he's doing an excellent job.
Yeah, that happened too. So when in court yesterday, they were trying to find out if Diddy was going to testify. So everybody was like, is he going to get on the stand? And Diddy jumped up in like a nervous kind of, you could tell that he was like excited, but it was kind of like he stressed out too. It was like a twitch and an itch. It was really weird. But then he got up and he just jumped and was like, Judge, you're just doing a great job, by the way.
He's like going to try to glaze him.
Yeah, okay. I think he's trying to get that acquittal, but I don't know if it's going to go through.
All right, now another thing that happened, let's talk about this Fat Joe civil case. The attorney for his accuser, TA, Tyrone Blackburn, got arrested for allegedly mowing down a process server with his car. This happened in New York City. He was taken into custody this morning.
Wait, mowing down? Like what? Like
running him over.
Running him over?
Yes, they say, cops are saying it all started when he got into his vehicle as he was getting served a complaint in that Fat Joe case. Allegedly, he slammed his car into reverse, backed up, and hit the process server in the leg, causing a minor injury. That's when that got reported to the police. So we'll keep you guys updated because that just happened this morning. But that was your Yeetie. When we come back, we have about last night. I was telling you what I did last night.
Yes, and it was a funny story.
But I'm going to talk about this play that I actually went to for a preview night that was really amazing. It's Way Up.
Hold on. Stop. We're not going anywhere. Come over here.
Who you talking to?
I'm talking to you.
Did you pull us over?
Yeah, that's why the lights are on. Can we all
passenger, bro?
Can we all come over here? You're in the car. We're not doing this, okay?
So what we doing?
We're all gonna come over here, okay?
Bro, you wasting your time.
71. Keep on the tag.
I was working. I'm
Right, you're good.
Hey, how you doing?
Listen. I'm out tag George William Victor 7608 GWV 7608. So what happened at Second Story?
I don't know. You tell me.
Hold on.
Shut up, bro.
Stop trying to walk away, okay? I'm gonna put you in handcuffs, okay? Because we got a call.
How you gonna put me in handcuffs?
Because you keep trying to walk away. You are detained right now. Yes, you absolutely are. Because there was a situation that go over there where someone was assaulted.
I wasn't in it.
They said this.
I wasn't in it.
Okay, do not scream at me or I will put you in cuffs, okay? You are causing an issue for yourself, okay? Do you want me to put you in cuffs? Yes or no?
No, we don't have to do all
Yes
that.
or no? Okay, then let's act like adults here, okay?
It's-
Can we
they
do that?
Cool, babe. They cool. They ain't tripping.
Can we
They
do
not
that?
Tripping like that.
Can you turn around and speak with me? Listen,
No,
bro.
it's not an issue. Let's talk.
All right, so what happened? That's all I want to know.
You tell
How you guys doing?
You already know, so why? Hey, shut up, Willa.
They're cool.
You already know, bro.
All right.
They're cool.
You know right from wrong, bro.
I know
And
right
you
from wrong.
asking
What do
me,
you,
like,
I
what
just want
happened?
to get your side of the story, so I'm not listening to just their side of the story.
He don't know.
I ain't have nothing to do with it. Ain't have
We
nothing to
walked
do
out
with
of
me.
there. It ain't
I
like
walked
we-
out.
We're
He pushed me. But like the touched him first.
Is everybody okay?
We're
Yes.
good.
Okay.
We
nobody
just left
was hurt, nothing like that?
No, we just
All right.
left so we wouldn't be a problem.
7111.
He
Can you
told
take us
him
to the
that
employees
he touched him,
Second Story
and he
to
told him keep his hands off him.
Okay.
And then we just like
Did they ask you guys to leave or something? Or?
Yes, I ain't gonna lie. They did ask us to leave.
Okay.
We walked back in because he mushed the We walked back up to the top
So
of the
was
stairs.
it the security guard or what?
No,
it was like just
an
employee.
Well, I don't know what because he had a black shirt on. I don't know if it was security guard or whatever it was. He worked for the club.
And that was the upstairs one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he mushed him. So we went to the car.
Mm-hmm.
Then we were like, I want to go back up there. So we walked back up there.
Okay.
Right? And I'm like, bro, what the going on? He was like, well, if you don't stop, we gonna call the police. Who gives a f? We already got y'all for assault. Y'all touching us.
All right. So what you're saying is, you guys were like on your way out, and then he like pushed you guys, and then
Pushed
that's
him.
when that's when you guys got upset.
Literally, he finished his drink and he grabbed him. He grabbed him and said, "Yo, don't take that motherfucker downstairs." All aggressive. And he was like, "Yo, I'm finishing. I'm not
Can I
gonna
just
take
grab
you
your guys'
downstairs. You're
information real quick,
tripping."
I ain't got no.
Oh, listen, what? I thought we were just cool. Stop walking away. Come over here, man. Come over here, dude.
No, I don't got to do that.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do. That's what I'm telling you. You are detained right now, okay?
All right, what am I under detained for?
I don't understand why you're making it an issue.
I'm asking, what are you locking me up for?
For a possible assault, dude.
No, me? I ain't touched nobody.
All right, okay. All right, we're not doing this shit. Turn around.
Bro, really?
Turn around. Turn around.
I
You're
swear to God.
screaming in my face. Turn around. Put your hands behind your back.
Guys, why we gotta do all that?
Because you are detained. Stop.
Bro, I ain't doing that. I'm trying.
Don't pull away from me.
Come on. We asked multiple times since we chill. Right? This everyone be chill though.
What are you talking about? What am I doing wrong, bro? I'm sitting here telling you.
Okay, now let's go lean somewhere, okay? Do you want to lean on the Rolls Royce? I prefer you not to.
bro.
Let's go over here and lean on this bumper right here, okay? Look, can we just act like adults right
Let's come
now?
over to the side, cause
I just need to grab it.
Hold on, man.
Hold on, talk to you right quick.
Man, I'm
Because
done
she
talking,
filming. Let's come over here.
What's
No, calm the down. It's not that
let's go.
serious.
It really is
I'm
not
wrong.
that
You
serious.
just
It's
told me
not
I'm
that
wrong.
serious.
You say I'm assaulting somebody, right?
No, I said
You're
we're
locking me up for
investigating.
assault, right?
Are you guys
All right,
ready?
let's take the ride. I see y'all tomorrow.
Stop.
Why are you grabbing me like
Because
this?
you walk away from me.
Damn, you grabbing me like
Listen,
that?
man.
Damn. That's what we on?
I don't know what you think this is, man. This is a simple
Grabbing
investigation.
me like that, though?
Yes.
They just want to talk.
Pack, he's trying to talk.
You are not free to leave, and you are not free to go anywhere except for
I ain't going nowhere, bro.
What
I'm
is your
doing this.
information?
And you got to grab me like that.
Yes, because you
All
are
right.
trying to walk away.
I
That is
can't
how
wait
it is.
Well, y'all
All right.
y'all gonna see it on the news, whatever. Go ahead. What you want, bro?
I just want your information, man.
You got the wrong. You this the that was grabbing somebody.
All right, turn
and
around.
y'all locking me up.
Turn around.
Y'all crazy, bro.
Turn around.
He
Hold
got
them back
into
real
it
quick.
with him. Let's go. I'm ready to go, bro. Lock me up. Man, I ain't got on me, bro. I'm clean as bro.
71. I got one more.
I swear to God, bro. Like I've been, bro.
Do you have anything on you since posted?
Swear to God, I don't, bro.
All right. What are we doing, man? Why are you acting like this?
You ain't listen to me. Will you listen to me?
I've been trying to.
Walk me over to the other side of the car because
Okay, we can.
I'm not with that
Over here.
Yeah, wherever you want to go.
Hold on.
It wasn't even me involved. How y'all locking me up?
Right here.
Free Pacman.
Oh.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right. Stop. Face the car. Face the car, dude. Stop.
You keep grabbing me like
Because
that,
you keep trying to
bro.
move away. I don't know who you think
Bro.
you are doing this, dude.
Listen,
Listen.
right. Bro,
All I'm asking
first
is
of all, you wrong.
Just
I ain't touching
follow-
nobody.
just follow-
Why the you grabbing me? I just told you. He even admitted that he did it. Why you grabbing me?
If you think all this stuff's gonna go online, why are you screaming?
Cause you
Compose
gonna
yourself.
see.
Compose yourself, okay?
You gonna see.
That's all you have to do. I'm not trying to get you hemmed up on anything, all right, bro?
What are we doing, bro? You take everything I got, bro.
Come on, dude.
I don't got like you tripping. So like yo. I just told you what happened. This the that hit him. Why you ain't lock him up? Why you ain't lock him up?
Because he's not acting a fool right now.
But he hit him though.
But he's not acting a fool.
What'd you say? Hold on. Why did you come approach me? You said because we was you said what you said you had? What you said?
There was an assault that occurred.
Man, you on camera, bro.
Absolutely I am. You are on camera. Dude, just face the damn car. Why am I asking you to do so many things?
What do you want me to do?
All right, how am I going to get this off of you? Is this a detachable?
I got it.
There we go.
Bro,
Yeah, it's going right here.
you need to put your on a little bit. Why you trying to act like you trying to lock and off? You grabbing me by my chest. With you.
All right, dude.
Fake car. Alright, grab me by my chest again. Do it again.
Don't make that, dude. Just stop.
Talking about. Shut up. Nobody walk away.
Stop.
Sorry, nigga, you
Listen,
right there.
stop, bro. Stop.
Bro, touch me.
You're making this worse for you, dude. Goodness gracious.
Bro, don't grab my wrist, bro. Bro, record. Hey, bro. Get over here.
There's plenty of people recording this, and we're recording this. All right. What is? Can you get that off his wrist?
They just want to talk.
This is wrong.
All right, but they just want to talk.
Why they don't want to talk to nobody else besides me?
It's all good. They want to talk to everybody.
Why didn't you like him up?
You can't. I just don't want it hurting his wrist. Hey,
I'm trying to tell him what happened.
Pacman, how do you get this bracelet off? Hey, how do you get this bracelet off your wrist? I'm not trying to break it or anything. I think if it closes his wrist, no, we're not trying to break it. Like I'm saying, we're trying not to.
Let me get it though.
I don't think you can get it either. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like tied around his wrist.
Let me get it.
Can you
get it?
try it out?
Let me get it.
Try it.
I ain't did nothing to nobody. I ain't touched nobody.
See what I mean? Like it's super tight around his hand.
I ain't did shit.
Right, there we go. Right. Can you put that?
They gonna harass me.
Here, can you pass it to me? Can you pass it to me, man?
Stop taking all his rings.
All of it goes with him. He can keep his ring on. I just don't want it cutting his wrist. Let me see it. We'll put it in his bag, okay? All right. Can you put him in the bag, please?
You're not. The ring's going with you.
Just put, I got your
Can
watch.
you give my ring
All
and
of
my
it's
watch?
going with you, dude.
Bro, why you grabbing me?
Because you know how many reports we've had where somebody has given something to
I'm
someone
not
else?
doing shit.
But I understand that, and that's exactly the same situation I was in last time. And then we had to do a theft report. It was all right.
Can you give it to her?
All right, please. Can you
Everything that's on you
It's
goes
going
with
with
you.
you. I'm gonna make sure it's in your bag. It's all on camera, okay? Why not?
What I did wrong? Tell me what I
Hold
did.
on, guys. Can we please back up, please?
Can you give her my shit though?
It has to go with you, okay? Look, I'm being very lenient with you right now, man.
Let's just step to the side and talk. It's not that serious.
Let's go, bro. Let's go.
It's not that serious.
Cool. Let's go. What they gonna charge me with? You gonna be viral.
I don't be viral.
Tell me
if
what
I
I
wanted
did.
to be viral,
Tell
I
me
would be
what I
viral.
did.
You are drunk in public, brother.
You're drunken, bro. Like, bro, listen. Can I talk to you for 1 second?
You've had multiple opportunities to talk to me, man. I'd love to talk to you.
You locked me up for drunk in public. Nigga, you say you pulled me over for? What you pulled me over for?
Because you were leaving
Nigga, we got you damn. That's what you stupid. Y'all stupid. All my cameras, all my cars got cameras on. Those dumb. You ain't put me over for drunk in public. You put me over for saying that I assaulted somebody. You stupid. Let's go, bro. Take the ride. Like, I'm cool.
So what I told them.
Man,
okay, do you
talk to me?
You said you wanted to talk to me.
Like, ain't no reason you should lock me up, bro.
All right.
What I do?
Let's see.
Tell me what I did.
Mr. Jones.
What I do?
You just asked me a question.
You just told me that I assaulted somebody.
I said, all right.
Didn't you say I assaulted somebody? That's what you told me, right?
Customers were pushing on workers.
Man, shut up,
it is
man.
in the call.
So what you locking me up for?
For being drunk in public. It's a violation. All right. Good.
I was walking across the street. He said,
"Hey, Horse, can you issue him the trespass letter? He's no longer welcome here."
Hold up.
Yeah, I'll give you a call.
Want y'all, I'm so happy. I'm finna make an example out of your though. Watch this. Why y'all think it's cool? Why y'all touch me, grab me?
I don't think, and I didn't want to touch you and grab you.
Watch and see where you be at in the morning.
Alright.
You and your partner. Gonna be on the news. I ain't did shit. You pulled up behind us, nigga, with the lights on.
Yeah.
I'm walking across the street.
No, you were still in the car.
Shut up. I wasn't. You a lie.
Hey, don't I need like a signature from the place?
Stupid.
Like, I don't know if I have like the actual letter.
Y'all exposed, like.
I might. I'll have to check though.
Talking about this, man. Shut the.
All right. Why are you so hostile?
White power.
I'm not even white. No, I'm not. I'm Hispanic.
Oh, y'all white. And you let him grab me. He had no reason to grab me. Tell me why he got to grab me.
Because you were walking away.
Suck my.
All right, Mr. Jones, can we play a little bit of what if?
Bro, what if?
What if we started from scratch?
I want to say you're a horrible officer.
Okay.
Why we on camera?
Yes.
Are we on right now?
Yes, we are.
All right. You're a piece of.
Okay. And
you know it's wrong.
You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm not gonna fault you for it. And I don't think anything ill of you. And I did roll the window down.
You didn't. Which window you rolled down?
To talk to your wife.
Which one?
And then you talked to her in such a horrible manner.
But God don't make mistakes, bro. You a piece of.
Okay.
You like the rest of these pieces of.
You know, Mr. Jones, I've dealt with a few Bengals players before, and you are by far the worst acting one.
You're a piece of.
Okay.
I ain't did.
Okay.
I ain't did. Look at your body camera. Stupid.
I don't need to look at it. It's a lived experience.
Stop talking.
All right. Let's hope it goes two ways, okay?
You locked me up for nothing. Oh well, I locked you up for assault first, but now I'm locking you up for. You sound stupid as a.
I had no idea who you were until you told me.
You did.
No clue.
You seen all them people over there filming your didn't you?
I saw one person. What I recommend is stop talking. Because you're only digging yourself into it. Okay.
Shouldn't even be in here. You did doing this some clap.